Now, if you told me when I was first getting into music as a 15-year-old, absolutely obsessed with all the latest bands and everything, if you told me back then that one day I could listen to pretty much any music that's ever been recorded on any device, be it a home stereo or even portable devices, which you didn't even have back then, such as phones, and all for the cost of basically what amounts to a couple of CDs a month, I would have thought that you were being completely bonkers and I would have dismissed it out of hand. Yet that's exactly what we have here in 2024, and no one can deny that streaming music services such as Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Qobuz, they've absolutely revolutionized both the listening experience for music fans such as you and me, as well as also having had a massive impact on the whole music industry, as labels have had to move away from just selling records to make money. However, despite this easy access to basically the entire recorded music catalogue in all of mankind's history, despite that, there are many of us, me included, who still spend our hard-earned money on buying music, be it physical copies, CDs, records, some people even buy cassettes, I don't know why, or buying downloaded digital files, sometimes in high res, although you know my thoughts on that. So why, when we have access to all the music available via streaming services, do people like me still buy music? Well, I can think of a few reasons and I'll share them with you in this video. So the first reason for me is that once you've bought a piece of music, you own it permanently. You can do what you want with it. Contrast that to streaming services. So it's not unusual for artists to suddenly take all their music off a certain platform, and if that's a platform you're signed up to, then you're basically screwed. We saw that from Neil Young, of course, who didn't have all his music on Spotify for a long time. Even Radiohead at one point pulled their catalogue from Spotify. Knowing that you've bought something and you own it forever is very, very reassuring. The second reason goes with that a little bit, in that when you buy a CD or a record or a digital file, that version is the version that you will get and keep. Now, many bands, particularly legacy bands that old people like me listen to, they often reissue their old releases. But for us connoisseurs who really value things like dynamic range in our music, quite often the remasters, particularly if they were done in the 2000s, 2010s, they're often very loud and they lose that dynamic range, and they make what was a really good recording into a flat sounding, loud mess. And I'd much rather quite often go and buy the original recording, which in many cases sounds better. Now, not all remasters are bad. So for example, I absolutely love Giles Martin's reworkings of Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper and Revolver. I actually find myself listening to those versions more than the original stereo mixes, which were pretty terrible for the Beatles records. However, if you value buying a record because of the way it sounds, or a CD for the way that CD is mastered, then you can be sure that once you've bought it, that won't change. You can rip it onto your hard drive and it'll sound the same. The third reason, and I think this is so important, is that particularly when you buy a physical piece of music, whether it's a record or a CD, you do get a tangible, tactile product. And quite often CDs come with sleeve notes, as do records, artwork, and it's just so satisfying handling physical media. I feel sorry for the kids of nowadays who've never had that experience and they just listen to Spotify, but actually owning a CD and putting it in a CD player and sitting back and enjoying the music whilst thumbing the sleeve notes is one of life's great pleasures. For me anyway. I know I'm a boring middle-aged bloke, but it really is something special. I love doing that even to this day. Now, if you own or use software like Rune, that can go some way to filling the gap, because obviously Rune pulls metadata from the internet. So even if you're streaming from Tidal, you can get all the information about the music you're listening to, related artists, and that's something that you don't get from physical music. However, I can still do that. I can buy my physical music, I can rip it to my hard drive, and I can let Plex or Roon or whatever it is that you use to play your digital music pull metadata, so you get the best of both worlds. Now, the final reason why I buy music, and I think perhaps this is the most important thing, is that I like to support the artists that I love with my money so that they'll go on and make more music. I know artists can make a load of money from streaming services, but unless you're Taylor Swift or something like that, you can have thousands, hundreds of thousands of streams and not really get much revenue. It's shocking when you look at how little an artist gets per stream. I mean, it's just a fraction of a penny here in the UK. So for new artists or smaller artists that perhaps don't have that mass market appeal, it can be a really hard slog to make any money from streaming services. However, when you buy a physical copy of the record, although the record company undoubtedly still creams off a huge amount in terms of royalties, the artist gets paid more than they would from streaming. If you use a website like Bandcamp to buy digital music, they give the artist a much bigger cut of the profits. Now, I absolutely love music and I'm obsessed by it, and it's soundtracked so much in my life, so it is great to be able to support the artists that you love. I mean, of course you can support them by going to the gigs and buying the merch and all that, but for me the purest form of support is valuing the product they put out, i.e. the music. So those are my reasons why I still buy music in 2024. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you still buy music, or do you rely purely on streaming services? Let's have a conversation about it. Do hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and if you really like my content, do consider subscribing. It helps the channel loads. We are slowly drifting towards 20,000 subs, which is just bonkers for a small hobby channel. And if you do like the stuff I do, it would be great to hear from you. Take care, everyone. See you soon.